What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to NFL Turf Talk. This is your Week 5 recap, along with some Thursday night football talk between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Denver Broncos. I am one half of your host, Dylan Davis. To my right, my faithful co-host, Scotty. Guys, we are streaming to you live exclusively through the DSM Media Turf Talk YouTube channel. So if you haven't already, please make sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, whatever you got to do for when we're live here on the channel, for whenever we post a video. We'll be live or posting every Thursday and Sunday morning, getting you guys ready for each slate, each game, and breaking down the previous week. So yeah, man, how's it going, Scotty?
Yeah, good Thursday. I'm trying to keep up with my days here. It's hard when you got sports every freaking day, and it's kind of taking you through the week. You start to just pay attention when a game's on rather than the actual day.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at with the Phillies right now, and the NFL and NBA kicking off. But nonetheless, happy to be here. Not too much to get into this week. There hasn't been a ton of news or anything too exciting as of late. But we'll be able to recap last week pretty thoroughly and maybe get into a little bit of tonight's mismatch.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to call it a matchup, but
it's always a blessing and a curse this time of year, man, because obviously we're both Phillies fans. So what we have going on right now, I mentioned this to some people I was talking to yesterday. Like, don't get me wrong, like it was Eagles game day, there was no Phillies baseball on, everything was well and good that day. But it's like normally the week leading into game day, all you're thinking about is the Eagles or football and all day Sunday and red zone and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, with this run the Phillies are on right now, it's kind of on the back burner. It's kind of second page news here for.
It's been weird
football.
like that the last two seasons. Yeah, since the Phillies obviously made the playoffs for the first time in a while last year, it has felt like that throughout the end of baseball season. That it's not a bad thing at the end of the day. I'm not complaining,
especially because it's not like they're just here. It's not like they're just in the playoffs and we're going through the motions. Yeah, it's kind of championship World Series type of expectations. So that kind of takes the front page of the news here, but we'll do our best and we'll get into this week 5 recap real quick, man. So just basic takeaways, questions we have coming out of this week, because I will say it was an interesting week 5 to sit back and reflect upon as I'm doing my notes here. And this league, the NFL, sports in general, but the NFL more so than anybody, is a week-to-week thing, and it's why any given Sunday is as true a statement as any out there, man. I mean, you're talking about teams that are the Tennessee Titans held the Cincinnati Bengals to 3 points last week and beat Joe Burrow pretty easily, and then all of a sudden, Gardner Minshew and Zach Moss step up to the plate and beat the Titans fairly easily as well at home, right? Like, it's just such a week-to-week thing. My first takeaway is somewhat of a question for you. It's somewhat of a discussion here, and it's pretty simple. What are the Buffalo Bills? What are they? What is Josh Allen? Because last week, 1 week ago today, I came on the show and I apologized to Josh Allen after what he did to the Miami Dolphins and Tua, and the way he said, no. This is still our division. The division has to come through, Northern New York, right? And they laid the wood to a Miami Dolphins team that had previously just dropped 70 the week prior and was looking unstoppable. Josh Allen looked like an MVP candidate. It was flawless. He really was for 3 weeks. And then you fly to London, and I get it. That's a task in itself, and maybe that probably plays a major role with what happened. Jacksonville's been there for 2 weeks now, a week and a half. They're settled in. They got everything down. But with that said, you got taken to the woodshed from the first minute on. Buffalo never saw a lead through all 60 minutes of this game against the Jacksonville Jaguars team that had somewhat been struggling. Yeah, they're 3-2, but they had a tough game, a little bit of a tough task against the Atlanta Falcons and Desmond Ridder the week before. They lost to the Indianapolis Colts pretty badly. This is a Jags team that's still figuring themselves out a little bit, and they beat up on Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, man. He turns the ball over again. So my question, it's a takeaway and a question. What are they through 5 weeks?
Yeah, man, it's interesting because it was one of my takeaways as well coming out of this week, I should say, coming out of week 5. But yeah, the Buffalo Bills are part of one of my takeaways as well, because just when you think, oh, there's your best team in the AFC, they get brought right back down to earth, right? And, I say that knowing what the Chiefs are. We know where they're going to be at the end of this season. But now all of a sudden, boom, the Chiefs are still 4-1. All the problems that they've had, right? Patrick Mahomes playing less than a Zach Wilson on a Sunday night football game, the wide receiver issues, all of that. The Taylor Swift mania. And so you get caught up in all of that. And I'm sitting here last week, I'm thinking, oh, well, the Bills, they've kind of stapled themselves in. They go out, dominate the Commanders. Then they come out and then they dominate the Miami Dolphins, who just dropped 70 points on another team. And so I come out of that week thinking, oh, the Bills are the best team in the AFC. They're the most well-rounded. They got the defense to go with the offense. Josh Allen's, playing out of his mind. It seems like he's got it together with the decision.
Diggs is happy.
Then you get to London, and it's just all around weird, right? They spend the day just trying to keep up with the Jacksonville Jaguars, trying to play catch up. Josh Allen has an incredible day, 359 yards, two passing touchdowns, whatever. But the interception, right? The interception creeps back into the picture. The turnover in the big spot when you have a chance to take control of the game, that comes back in the picture. And so all of a sudden we're right back at first base with the Buffalo Bills, and their defense is beat up again. Matt Milano gets taken out in the cart, right? Big linebacker for them. Tre'Davious White, I believe, is out for season as well. So down the line, it's starting to look
story again with their defense,
like the Buffalo Bills from last year. And they didn't do anything to the offense, right? There's no reason for us to expect that offense to be like better this season, aside from Josh Allen decision making. That's the only difference that we can expect in this offense. And so where it leaves me, I don't know. I don't know what the Bills are, man. I would say when I look at this AFC across the board, almost, I mean, even the Dolphins, they've got one loss, but that loss was a dismantling by a division rival
team you played. Exactly. That's my question as well, right? Like,
so the only team really is now the Chiefs for me.
Buffalo loses to the Jags, Miami wins in the fashion they did. The offense stays explosive. They have a better record, and it's like kind of when you're looking towards your power rankings this upcoming weekend, it's like, where do you put these? But so, like, to your point, the only real competition Buffalo or Miami has faced, they got smacked in the mouth.
Exactly.
And then Buffalo beats up on some real competition, but then maybe loses 2 games they shouldn't have lost already this season.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's very weird to balance, man. So, my question, even the Jacksonville Jaguars, who just beat the Buffalo Bills, we talked about them running away with their division. They lose to the Colts earlier this year, right?
Literally.
It's very, very strange.
Just weird. I just wanted to point out, I don't know if we said this earlier in the week or maybe even on Sunday, but just weird how Jacksonville gets to play like 2 straight games in London. Like, I get it. You're on the road and it's still tough for the Jags, but why did they get to spend 2 weeks in London and then, the Buffalo Bills come over and with a week less time to adjust? It's just weird to me. I know the Jacksonville Jaguars played 2 games as well, so I guess it's the same, but just weird overall trying to like incorporate the international schedule. And because it does seem like a hassle to go over there and play 100%. One game and then come back.
Right. And when your opponent has kind of been nestled in, right, for the last 2 weeks, week and a half, making themselves comfortable. But it sounds corny, but getting adjusted to the jet lag and the sleep schedule and the change of time and everything like that. It is definitely different. Your atmosphere is all thrown off. So it definitely probably played a little bit of a factor, but it's still a loss. Coming off of a high like that against Miami, you can't find yourself faltering in that position. That's my biggest thing. And Josh Allen.
You find yourself trying to get up for the game.
Yeah.
And it just shouldn't be that way. This is a team that you could very well see in the playoffs.
In the postseason. 100%. This was another test for them, and they failed this one.
The big letdown, yeah.
My next takeaway for you, okay?
Yeah.
And it's something I brought up on Sunday morning, looking at this slate of games and which way we wanted to pick. And I brought up, if this team does not respond at home for this head coach, this may well This may very well be his last year with this organization. Now, not only did this team not bounce back and respond and win for their head coach, they didn't make the trip. The New England Patriots get routed in Foxborough by Derek Carr and the New Orleans Saints 34-0. Mac Jones yanked again. 1-4 New England start to the year. I'm telling you, man, it's just a hunch. It's very early. They could win 2 weeks in a row and be, 3-4, right around 500. I don't know. But this team lacks talent in skill positions. This team has lost their identity to establish the run. Mac Jones is looking like he's not a starter in the National Football League. And this defense that is supposed to be top of the line is giving up over 25 points, 27 points to the New Orleans Saints at home. Is it crazy to take away that Bill Belichick will not be the New England Patriots head coach after this season?
A Saints team that lost to the Buccaneers, 26 or 27-9 the week before. So, it speaks to where the Saints are at. But, man, it is crazy to think about, but it feels like the end of something there, right? Like, obviously, you had Tom Brady leave New England a few years back, and you give Bill Belichick a little bit of a grace there, right, as far as trying to build this thing up. But I think the problem overall with Bill Belichick, and anytime you see a coach that's been there for so long and how it kind of plays out throughout the organization, is they start to get more responsibilities within the organization. They start to have more control, more power. And so to that point, when you look about how I know there's an argument for the lack of talent, right, around Mac Jones and what they have on offense. Bill Belichick's in the decision-making for that as well, right? It's his decision to go out and get Juju Smith-Schuster and add to that offense. Like, all of these decisions, these mistakes that have been made by the New England Patriots, Bill Belichick has a ton of accountability in all of those decisions and mistakes. So to your point, when you think about, is it fair to question the Hall of Fame head coach, arguably the best head coach of all time? I think that goes up into argument in itself now, right? But it's not like you can just fire a GM. Right? Like, you can't just fire a GM and change direction with Bill Belichick. You have to let him go and let that entire system, that entire part of the organization go, all of his coaching trees. How many of his coaches have we seen leave and just be horrible, right? Like, so I don't know, man. It's interesting. But I think that's a good call on your part going back to last week. And as we look at how things are going to play out going forward, I could very well see it being like that Andy Reid type of
I think
with Philadelphia type of thing.
That's the analogy I was going to use for you as well. Like, it's not even so much accountability, is it Bill's fault, whose fault? It's just time. Like, that's what I think it is.
They need something fresh.
Right. You were the greatest dynasty in the history of the National Football League. And I don't think that's arguable over that sustained success with him and Tom. Tom moved on. The question became Bill or Tom. Tom wins the Super Bowl. Tom, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
He's retired now. Like, he came out of retirement. Now he's retired again. And Bill's still there. And now you see this start to the season. And it goes back to last year, man. Like, he was playing two quarterbacks. He was playing Bailey Zappi and Mac Jones in the same game last year.
This carousel
and now here we are again. Mac Jones looks so bad back-to-back weeks that Bailey Zappi has to come in. Let me ask you a question. I know that was your draft pick and you're trying to figure things out with Mac Jones, but why is Bailey Zappi still the backup quarterback in New England? Yeah. Why isn't there a veteran presence behind Mac Jones where if things go south or you need someone to kind of steer the Mac Jones ship, so to speak, a little bit? Why is there no veteran backup in that room? You just decide to run it back with these two?
It's weird. It's almost because, like, you look back to the Cam Newton situation and it's like Cam Newton's sitting in that locker room, in that QB room, and he's like, man, I don't deserve to be sitting behind this guy. like you look at Mac Jones and his production on the field and what he's doing. He had 3 turnovers in this game, man. Like it's just unacceptable for a guy whose back is against the wall right now. All eyes on you in New England, and you can't do anything with this offense. It's one thing if you're just a game manager.
Right, Scotty, even look at his staff. You mentioned, and again, I know it sounds like we're pummeling the greatest coach of all time right now, but if you look at his staff, it's like you are right with it being time and you needing those old habits to die hard and move on, because look at his coaching staff again. Bill O'Brien feels like he's back in New England calling plays for the 900th time since Bill Belichick's been there. His son is a big part of the defense. Like, again, it's just time. You need something fresh. And I never thought that team would get beat the way they did in Foxborough and not respond for him. You lose that game, that's one thing.
Yeah.
To give up 34 points and not even kick a field goal is a complete other story. So like you said, a team in the New Orleans Saints who just lost at home to Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
It's unacceptable, to say the least. And I really don't know where the Patriots go next, because like you said, you didn't bring in a veteran backup quarterback. Do they go out? If you're the Patriots and you're trying to be a competent franchise right now, don't you just go out and look at guys like Carson Wentz and I
think at this point, I think you throw this season out the window.
Throw the season.
I think, I don't see any point in trying to be a competent team finishing around 500, because to what we're discussing here about moving forward,
you need a quarterback for the future.
Yeah, you do need a quarterback for the future. And if you continue on this dreadful start, now, are they going to be the worst team in the league? Are they going to be worse than the Bears or the Panthers, who have sent their pick to the Bears? I don't know. But you could see the New England Patriots in top 5, projected draft picks.
Yeah.
So, I would not, honestly, like Bailey Zappi, Mac Jones, whatever it is, this is kind of the bed you made, and you're going to lay in it for not fixing that. And like you said, to start the segment, like Juju Smith-Schuster was the piece. Right. But you let Jacoby Myers just walk out the door.
The season before, Nelson Aguilar, that's the route we're going.
How about the year they brought in 4 tight ends? Like they had Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, and someone else.
Yeah.
What are we doing? Hey, what is Ezekiel Elliott's purpose on this team?
The similar style back as Ramondre Stevenson. Right. There's no balance there. He's not like a pass catching back with a.
And now runner. It feels like a century ago last Sunday, but isn't Matthew Judon's hurt now? Right?
Is he?
I believe I'm almost positive.
I did not know that. But yeah, that's their best.
Let me just make sure I have this correct here.
Best defensive player, their best player,
Matthew
honestly.
Judon injury. So elbow still sideline.
Josh Uche, Uche. I don't know if I'm saying his name right.
Yeah.
He's injured right now too. He's their other
Christian Gonzalez. I don't know if he's still out, but he's injured.
Out for season, or at least on IR. He's at least on IR.
So yeah, I mean, I see no point in them trying to be a competent, competitive team moving forward this season. Just kind of ride it out, and hey, maybe somehow, some way, the New England Patriots find themselves in Caleb Williams territory by the end.
That would be their luck, right? That would be their luck.
Yeah,
but
then maybe Bill gets to stick around. And maybe Bill gets to coach Caleb Williams, right? Maybe
that would be something. That would be something else, man. Honestly. With that being said, talking about the Patriots, obviously they're not a team that we think will try to do anything to kind of change their fortune. Sure. Is there any teams out there that you feel like should, like the Atlanta Falcons? They're 3-2 now, right?
Well, I was going to take it the opposite direction, but I will circle back around to what kind of borderline 500, 3-2 type of surprise teams could do something. But
just thinking about. My mind goes to Russell Wilson in Denver, and he's playing all right this season. Is there any team that would trade?
I don't think so. I think that the contract and the money is way too much. It's immovable for Denver. But that's what I was going to bring up. All these storylines are surrounding the Denver Broncos and how they're about to have a fire sale, and no one's off limits. Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, Pat Surtain, Justin Simmons, everybody's available, right? They already dealt Randy Gregory away, all that. I'm looking at the Minnesota Vikings, man.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at their 1-4 start, and now I'm looking at Justin Jefferson missing the next 4 weeks on IR.
Kirk Cousins.
If you're them, at what point do you say we're going to punt on this season and move in a new direction? Like if you're the New York Jets, do you call for Kirk Cousins? Because you're not out of playoff territory, obviously. And if you put Kirk Cousins on this team for a year, do they make a little bit of a run? So I do think it's those kind of teams that you need to keep an eye on, or who's going to sell, who's not. But to answer your question originally, like what teams might not be so bad and could make moves, I'm not going to say Atlanta because I still don't like Desmond Ridder at all. I don't trust Desmond Ridder. And if you're them, what piece are you really you're not trading for a quarterback because you think Desmond Ridder's the guy already. So like what piece are you really going to go
the only thing I was thinking is if they did go after a Kirk Cousins. I don't know what his contract situation is like, but I mean them or the Jets do make a ton of sense to me.
100%. I'm looking around the league, man. They're
the Titans.
It is strange, man.
It is a strange season.
The Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers have the same record. The Steelers just won head-to-head, but it feels like the Baltimore Ravens should be light years ahead of the Pittsburgh Steelers. That offense in Pittsburgh is so bad. So bad. And they just beat you.
Yeah, they beat you. And
the Cleveland Browns.
You were only able to put up 10 points.
Yeah.
Like that's insane for a guy like Lamar Jackson to just got the bank, right? Like that's just unacceptable. I get the Pittsburgh Steelers have a pretty good defense, but who did we just watch them get railed by? Like I think it was the Texans, right? Yeah, the Texans 30-6 against the Steelers. But then the Baltimore Ravens can only come out and put up 10 points. And I get it's on the road, it's in Pittsburgh, but like those just sound like excuses to me. The Ravens, man, they're so interesting because they look so good on paper all the time, but then the offense just always comes out and underperforms.
I'll ask you this, all right? Because by you asking me that question, I went through all the teams and I looked and record wise, trajectory, how they're playing, who makes sense. I'll take it a step further. You know what I see looking through this list of records and standings?
What's that?
A ton of bad to mediocre teams in this league right now. So when I think Super Bowl, and now we're only 5 weeks in, so this is very, very early of a conversation. But when I look around this league, who do you take seriously to win the Super Bowl? All right, compared to the teams you thought could win it before the year. I'll tell you this, it's very simple for me. I look at the Niners and the Eagles in the AFC, or the NFC, excuse me. And I look at the Kansas City Chiefs.
Bunch of maybes.
And then a bunch of maybes in the AFC. I look at no one else in the NFC beyond the Eagles and the Niners as serious contenders. Dallas, you cannot take seriously right now. No. The Lions are a cool story. They're good. I know they beat the Chiefs. I don't look at them as a Super Bowl winning team just yet. The Seattle Seahawks are a good team. I don't see Geno Smith leading them to a Super Bowl, okay? No. Then you get to the AFC. Have the Jags look like a Super Bowl contending team through 5 weeks? No. The Bills, we just talked about them earlier in the show. No. The Dolphins, I'd love to say but then they lost to the only real team in the Bills like we talked about.
Yeah.
The Ravens, I picked to be the 1 seed in the AFC. My God, that looks horrifying. The Bengals maybe just figured it out, but then again, they played the Arizona Cardinals. So they don't look like a real team. The Browns, no. The Steelers, no. The Jets, Rodgers out. There are maybe 3 or 4 teams in both conferences combined that I can look at through 5 weeks and say that team could win a Super Bowl. Outside of that, no, not right now.
Yeah, no, I do agree with you, man. I actually wrote this down as one of my takeaways, and I simplified it to just the Niners and the Eagles, but you can throw the Chiefs in there as well. I know they had the one disappointing loss to start the season to the Lions, but Lions are a 4-1 team as well. So, yeah, San Fran, Philly, and Kansas City are the only teams that I look at. And look, I look at it this way. As an Eagles fan, what team do I think has like a chance that they could beat us in the most important game of the season, right? If we're playing them in our most important part of the season, which one of these teams can beat us? It's really only San Fran and Kansas City, right? And those are the only teams that I don't want to use the term afraid, but use the term they can compete with us, they can play with us, they can beat us. But all that being said, there's a lot of just mediocrity in the league right now, and I think that's the best way to put it. Week to week, as I mentioned, you have the Bills, who you think are the best in the AFC. They come out, they lose to the Jags. You have the Ravens. Oh, they can take control of the AFC North. They come out, they lose to the Steelers.
10 points.
Texans, man. We were all over the Texans last weekend against the Falcons. Thought maybe they could take a step forward in their division. They go out, they lose to the Falcons.
Yeah.
Even Justin Fields, right? We looked at the Bears, threw them out the window. Worst passing offense ever, and then he comes out and throws for like 8 passing touchdowns the last 2 weeks. This league is just all over the place right now, is kind of what I'm getting at.
Which is why these types of conversations 5 weeks in are always somewhat like silly, like us having.
I don't want to over exaggerate, right? I don't want to sit here and say like, the Bills aren't going to make the play. They're going to make the playoffs.
Seven weeks from now, okay, week 12, week 13, and that still leaves 5-6 weeks left of the season. 7 weeks from now, I mean, we could look back and say, "What the hell were we talking about?"
Yeah,
like the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins could go 6-1 in the next 7 weeks, right? And have 2 losses on the whole year. And we were sitting here like, nah, they lost to the Bills. They can't, you know what I mean?
There's just something I will say about Miami. They're 4-1. There's just something about them that comes off as like soft to me. Like,
because they're so
I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because
their offense is so flashy. They're fast. They score a lot of points. There's all this motion. It's the beautiful left-handed.
They come off as flashy.
Tyreek Hill, but there's a lack of toughness. Right? Their head coach is 5'4", nerd with glasses, right? Like, I love Mike McDaniels. But
he's a funny dude. Yeah, I like him.
There's nothing tough about Mike McDaniels, right? Like, so I feel you from that sense. It's an interesting league, and that's why we said to start the show. It is truly week to week.
One question before we get out of here. Maybe we pick a winner for the Thursday night football game. Maybe pick whether or not the Chiefs are covering the spread. Yeah. But who do you have winning the AFC North as of right now? We talked about the Ravens and Steelers. It's a tough division.
Wow, that's a great question. I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I am going to say that Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase
get it
together. Again, I don't want to overreact to a great, like a ridiculous production day against the Arizona Cardinals. I don't want to do that. But from what I've seen so far, the Browns have no shot. They have that Deshaun Watson. What even is his injury? Is he like what's going on there?
I heard he's not actually injured.
Right. Like there's something going on there. Nick Chubb goes down. They've already lost to the Steelers this year. So what does that tell you? The Steelers, I mean, I can't take seriously.
I can't take Kenny Pickett, though.
No. Matt Canada, that whole issue there, you're not winning the division. The Ravens, I want to take them seriously. There's definitely still a chance there. But I watched that team have the same issues through the first 5 weeks this year that they've had since Lamar Jackson's been there. And we continue to think, and we try to talk ourselves into, quantity over quality. Yeah. They went out, Odell Beckham Jr., they bring in Zay Flowers, they have Mark Andrews is back healthy, all these different targets for Lamar. How many drop passes did they have? Are you Nelson Aguilar is back on a football field somehow. Didn't even know he played for wide open ones. He drops a touchdown. Zay Flowers dropped about 4 passes, it felt like, the other day from flipping on to that game.
After he gets called a Smurf.
Odell can't stay healthy at all.
No.
So I look at that Ravens team, I can't take them seriously.
No.
Because that's a Steelers team that, like you said, just gave up 30 to the Texans the week before. So it's not like their defense is the number 1 defense in the league. And
and it's not like Ravens defense gave up a bunch of points to the Steelers either, right?
So
they lost by
I'm looking at the Bengals to maybe have started to figure things out. 7-Eleven open 24 hours a day.
Joe Burrow.
T. Higgins, is injured. He'll be back, so that gives a bump to the offense as well. They have to start running the ball. They have to play better defense, and they have to start figuring out the run with Joe Mixon. I think they will, and I'm going to pick the Bengals right now to come back and win that division.
Yeah, I'm actually with you there. I looked at the Ravens this weekend, and I get it. It's 5 weeks in once again, but just does not look good. Looks like
No.
the same old with that team, and I'm not signing up for that. I would
What
sign
about
up
the
for
East?
the Bengals getting it right. The AFC East.
Yeah.
So
it's a two-team race right now, right? Unless the Jets did trade for somebody, but I don't think they are. But yeah, the Bills and the Dolphins. Obviously, that was a big part of today's conversation, right? Like the Bills beat up on Miami, but through all 5 weeks combined, the Bills look like the better team.
Where did they play last week?
They played in Buffalo.
In Buffalo, so they would play the second one in Miami.
Yeah.
That one's tough, man. I don't know. I don't know yet.
Especially with all the injuries defensively.
Gut feeling, I feel like Miami could hold on to it.
I know.
That's just a gut feeling, though. I think they're both playing.
You know what I think that is this year, Scotty? I truly believe that is such a matchup based position. And what I mean by that is I think the Dolphins will ultimately win the division because I think they'll have more success around the league. That offense is high flying. Their schedule will play out a little bit easier. I think the Dolphins will win the division, but I think the Bills match up very well against the Dolphins if they met in a playoff game.
Yeah. And I would even argue, if I'm like having to pick an opponent in the playoffs, I don't know. I almost said something, but I don't know. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are some different animals, so it makes it close. I don't like the idea personally of playing against Josh Allen, man. I know that he makes some mistakes. He can make some mental errors, but when he has those like super games, like his super games are better than others' super games. It's up there with Mahomes. So I don't know. That is a tough one to think about. Like, who would I rather play in the playoffs? Like in the Super Bowl, the Dolphins or Bills? That's tough. Bills is really like the more physical team, though, the more playoff ready, playoff built team, but they don't run the football very well at the same time. So I don't know.
If we're examining it through an Eagles lens, obviously, if the Eagles made the Super Bowl, who would we rather play? And we're gonna actually find out in about a week and a half.
Yeah.
Miami scares me in the sense of that, like that motion-led offense with all that speed, that worries me for Sunday Night Football in a few weeks. I want to see what the Eagles defense can do against that type of offense because that could be a long night to link. So we'll find out.
Can they protect Tua though against an elite
pass
rush?
Great point.
Those are my questions, I guess.
But with the offensive mind that Mike McDaniels is the ball just out like that to the speedsters, right? Yeah. So that's the big thing. Thursday Night Football.
Because you're not press coveraging Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill.
No, not at all. Thursday Night Football. Broncos, Chiefs. Obviously, we have the Chiefs winning.
The Broncos we just are watching this. If you're watching, I won't be watching. I'll be watching the Phils. But if you're watching, you're probably just watching for your own team, see which Broncos player you'd like to see your team acquire. So I'll put my bid in. I would like Justin Simmons, safety for the Eagles. I would like to get him over here if they're having a fire sale. Jerry Jeudy, he's interesting.
Wait. Let's be honest. I do. So I agree. Like the bigger need, Justin Simmons, safety here would be amazing. And obviously, we already have 2 all-pro type of corners. But my God, if I can get Pat Surtain, I'm going and I'm getting. Surtain.
Yeah. The only reason I didn't say him, I would take him over Simmons, honestly. The only reason I didn't say him is because I've kind of seen the rumor that he's like the one piece that's not available from him. So yeah, I would definitely take Surtain in a heartbeat, man. He's the best player on that team.
Yeah, Jerry Jeudy, Courtland Sutton's a little more interesting because he is like the definition almost of like a third option. And if you put Courtland Sutton, obviously Jerry Jeudy's the better player and whatever. I'm just talking about in terms of like, is Jerry Jeudy going, like, obviously if he gets traded, there's nothing he can do about it. But if he got traded here, is he okay with being, in Quez Watkins' role kind of in this offense?
Yeah. Courtland Sutton, he's interesting because you don't have as much, you don't have to give him as much responsibility, right? Exactly. And you don't have to give up as much. You don't have to give up as much.
Right. Exactly. It'll be interesting, man. But with that said, I have the Chiefs winning this one.
Probably going to cover.
I think they covered it. I'll tell you what, man. This is going to be a ticker test for the Denver Broncos tonight. This is going to be about heart.
Like, do you have any type of dignity?
Yeah. Like you've already gotten 70 dropped on your head. and you've lost, you blew the game against the Commanders, and then you catch the Hail Mary, but you still lose that game. And then you lose last week the way that they did to Nathaniel Hackett and Zach Wilson at home. They have a problem there. And like you said before, it's not necessarily a Russell Wilson problem like we thought it was last year. Russell Wilson actually looks pretty damn good.
It's everything else.
It really is almost everything else. And then it's funny though, because you know what Russ is reminding me of in Denver right now? Russ is reminding me of early 2020 Carson Wentz and the Eagles.
Yeah.
When it wasn't necessarily Wentz's fault for everything in the beginning. And he would actually play good, but everything else sucked. But then the end of the game, somehow they're only down a possession, and there comes that strip sack or that like Russ last week. They had a chance.
Not a ton of turnovers.
Russ has the untimely fumble, right? That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good comparison. It's not a ton of turnovers throughout the season.
Right. But
in big spots. That's the key. And that's it's kind of been the thing for Josh Allen as well, in my opinion. Just like in the bigger moments, right? But on a bigger scale for him, I would say. But no, I do agree with you there. We'll see what the Broncos are about tonight before everybody gets fire sold. And the Chiefs, man, they've been having some closer matchups, right? You would like to see them take a step forward as well. If they want to really keep up that elite status, maybe get their wide receivers going tonight. So there's a few things to look for there. It's a divisional rival. Maybe it's a closer one. Who knows? But I will not be watching. I will not be placing any bets. Nothing of the sorts.
Needless to say. But guys, that is going to wrap things up for this week 5 recap of NFL Turf Talk here on DSM Media's NFL Turf Talk YouTube page. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure to smash that subscribe button, like this video, comment, whatever you got to do. But it's the best spot to get your thoughts, comments, and questions pulled up here on the screen with your host. For myself, for Scotty, for DSM, have a great rest of